let's talk about amps. Hey guys, it's my name Cliffe here and welcome to another episode of Baby Steps Towards Minimalism. And in this one I'm going to talk about a significant part of the guitar rig, which is amplifiers. Lots of musicians and particularly guitarists joke about gas. Gas, not as in what comes out of orifices or anything else, but gas, which is short for gear acquisition syndrome, which is basically a fact that most guitarists, or at least a significant proportion of us, acquire gear with frightening regularity whether or not we need it. And this is certainly something that I have been guilty of even before I had money. Stuff would get traded, swapped with other people. You just generally acquire more and more gear over time. You do a gig and it'll give you enough money to go out and buy a new pedal or new cables or whatever it is. And it's obviously become an issue for me even before I started my baby steps towards minimalism journey. And while you can kind of get away with having a large number of pedals because they're all slightly different, unless you have duplicates, which is another whole thing, they tend to be fairly small, not too expensive, although some of them are not cheap, particularly the ones made from smaller or boutique builders. But other things, so guitars again actually don't take up that much room. People always asked me when I had 29 guitars or whatever it was, how do you have room for them? And actually the guitars themselves don't take up very much room at all. Cases take up room, hard cases particularly, but guitars, you can fit 5 or 6 in a very small amount of space that's not much larger than the space that one takes up. So particularly if it's on a stand. But amplifiers is something that there is really takes up a lot of room, is a lot of clutter, and I seem to have acquired rather a lot. Now the first one that I can show you, because it's very, very light, very, very portable, is I think my only solid state guitar amp, which is this Boss Katana Mini. So it runs off AA batteries, 6 of them, which is slightly annoying, or a power supply. It doesn't sound amazing, but it's great because it's incredibly light, it's incredibly small. I can put it in a backpack, and if I need to go and play somewhere, just like round with friends, jam with people, or particularly, and this is why I bought it, to give private guitar lessons, it's really handy because I can just take it with me, carry it in one hand, guitar in the other, or on my back. Jobs are good. So that is an amp that I will probably be keeping for the foreseeable, because for small battery powered practice amps it takes some beating. It doesn't sound bad and it's pretty loud, and it's, as I say, small, portable. But then I seem to have over the years acquired quite a bit of other stuff. So in 2011 I moved away from rack gear and big heads. Actually, I sold my big amp heads in 2010, I think, when I had no money. So at the start of 2011, end of 2010, I was running essentially a rack with a solid state power amp and a modelling preamp, a Digitech GSP 1101, I think it was. But then I went to the NAMM show in 2011 and reawoken my love for valve amps. I had previously been using a Laney LC15, LC15R I think it was back then. It became the LC15 110, but it was a slightly different circuit. And then I'd moved on to multi-channel big amps when I was playing with Fallen Angel, which was a metal band I played with for a while. So I was using a PV JSX and a PV XXX because, hey, you need stereo, you need 6 different channels, despite the fact that you've got a whole host of pedals in front of them, and rack gear and MIDI switching, and the whole thing was mental. But then, as I say, I went to NAMM. I discovered some smaller valve amps that sounded really good, and the ones that caught my attention, partly because Bruce and his son Ian, I think it is, were really nice, really friendly people. was the Ignitor tweaker. And so I bought a Ignitor tweaker half stack from Guitar Guitar. So a half stack is a head, and it's a small head, 15 watt 6v6 head, and a 1x12 cab. But then I still had a hankering for stereo, so I bought another head and cab. And then when we moved to Hong Kong, I left one of them in the UK. And then I bought another head on eBay. And then I bought a couple of extra cabs so I could run them as full stacks instead of half stacks. And then I brought the one back from the UK to here. So I then had 3 heads and 4 cabs. I actually had another head as well that went wrong, and then we replaced the transformer in it because the transformer blew. Then I had other issues. I think then the other transformer blew. In the end, it was more trouble than it's worth. I bought it cheap second-hand on eBay from America, and that ended up just getting disposed of because it was too much hassle. But I still ended up with 3 Ignitor tweaker rigs. And then I thought it would be much more handy, particularly for going out and playing at church and stuff, to have a combo. So I bought an Ignitor tweaker 15 112 combo, and then another. You keeping track of all this? And I also had, as a kind of secondary rig, a Ibanez TSA 15 combo, which is the one with the built-in tube screamer. Quite a cool little amp, incredibly heavy for its size. The stock speaker is naff, but I replaced that. And so that then left me with 6 15 watt guitar amps. And then last summer I'd been hankering after trying something new. So when I was in Liverpool for Eva's brother's wedding, I went into Dawson's Music and tried out the Black Star Anniversary Edition combos, the Artisan and the Artist, and fell in love with them. So I bought an Artisan 10AE and 2 Artist 10AEs. So now I'm up to 9 plus the practice amp. And this is where it all got a bit crazy. And then I realised this and started on this whole minimalism journey. And I'm now thinking, okay, so which ones of those bring me joy? Which ones of those should I keep? So I think realistically at this stage, my Ibanez TSA 15 I'm going to take to and pretty much leave at church. It's actually been on loan to a friend for nearly a year, I think. But he's now got himself an amp finally that he's happy with, so he brought it me back, and that's cool. So yeah, that is going to go to church, so that's kind of out of the equation. I'm not too worried about that, but I'm still then left with all these other amps, and the Ignitor tweakers sound great, so I don't want to get rid of all of them. And the Black Stars sound great, so I don't want to get rid of all of them, plus I've not had them very long. So my current rig though is just one Artisan 10AE and one Artist 10AE. The other Artist 10AE I've actually got over in school. I use that for rehearsals and sessions with the groups, the ensembles that I lead there. So what do I do with all these Ignitors? Now I think at the moment it's looking like I'm going to keep the 2 combos, one of the heads and a couple of the cabs, because I've modified a couple of the cabs. So at least I can get rid of 2 heads and 2 cabs, and I'll probably sell them as units, as half stacks, which is essentially how I bought them, because I think that'll be easier to sell as a package to people. So at least that's a step. And then there's bass amps. Now I got really into the TC Electronic BG250 range. Initially I got the 112. It was I think a Christmas present from Eva the first year we were here, basically because I didn't have a bass amp here. I needed a bass amp, and it was a good price and it's a good deal. It's a lightweight amp, but it's big and bulky. And then I had this crazy idea of building this big bass rig, so I bought the 210 as well, so I could split it and bi-amp the setup. and that's even bigger and heavier. But this was a real pain for taking, say I wanted to play at church but wanted to take an amp with me. A lot of the time I just DI through my pedal board, but sometimes you do want an amp for something. So I bought a TC BG250 208, the 2x8 combo, which is much smaller and great and really lightweight, really handy. Also works really well as a keyboard amp, but keyboards are stereo, so I bought a second one. So I'm now at 4 bass amps, and to be honest, I don't use either of the 2 big ones ever. So they need to go, because they're taking up a lot of room. They're big, they're heavy, they're bulky. I mean, they're not crazy heavy, they're like 18 and 20 kilos or something like that. It's not like an Ampeg 8x10 or something, but it's still a surplus, it's unnecessary. So I think, in kind of at the back of my mind, if I can shift those 4 amps, I'm at least making progress on this baby steps journey towards minimalism. So yeah, I don't know how I've ended up with all this stuff. I think I really needed to have initiated much earlier on a 1 in, 1 out policy, but it became too easy to buy stuff here in Hong Kong, and it's not easy to sell stuff. So exactly how I'm going to move them on, I'm not sure. I'm still working on that. I mean, I could literally sell someone a complete starter package for something that's not quite a starter, if you see what I mean. I could sell someone a Fender Strat with a cable, maybe a couple of pedals, and a nice amp as a package. Maybe that's the approach I need to take. I'd love to know your thoughts. But do you have anything that's like this, that's something that you've acquired gradually and it's built up and it's now got to this point where it's like, how have I got so much stuff? Yeah, this whole process of moving towards this minimalist setup, or at least a more minimal setup, is just eye-opening and eye-watering in terms of realising what I've acquired. It was easy when I had something, I had an amp over in school, and I had a couple of amps in storage, and I had a couple of amps at home, and then I had an amp at a friend's house and an amp at church and all this, and it was easy to justify having all them. But when you bring them all together, and they are all literally in my apartment at the moment, so 9 guitar amps and 4 bass amps, and it's like, how? Why? Hope everyone's doing well. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, let me know your thoughts. Hit the notification icon if that's your thing. Take care guys, I'll speak to you soon.